Tov, everyone. Boker Tov. We start our morning acknowledging our souls and the gift of starting a new day with new opportunities and having God's trust. On page 186. חמלה רבה אמונתך שחסרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך. I offer thanks to you, ever-living sovereign, that you have restored my soul to me in mercy. How great is your trust. And as we start this morning, we take a moment to enter this virtual sanctuary that we create together and to acknowledge our Keilah Kedusha, our sacred community, to acknowledge those that are joining us on YouTube and on Facebook, to acknowledge those that are leading the service together, to acknowledge our cantorial fellow, Gavi Newman, and Noga, who is sitting next to me, and of course, Zach Richter, who is sustaining and making sure that all this technology comes together and works out. So we will start our service together, our prayer together, by taking a moment to look at each other and to look at this beautiful community that we create together, turning our series into page 192. Matubu.
Tov
now turn our Sidurim to page 194, and I invite you to choose one of the short readings, one of the short blessings between pages 194 and 195, or maybe to find the words that you need to say to acknowledge your body, the well functioning of your body. And you might want to place your hand in some part of your body that needs special attention. If you need calm, if you need strength, you find it. You know what you need right now. And we try at this moment to acknowledge our bodies and our needs. We say, blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch ata Adonai, rofe kol basar, umafli la'asot. Today we will try a different melody for the blessing for our souls. Maybe the reason is because we need different melodies to think anew about the words that we say. So as you learn this melody and you listen to this melody, and I encourage you to start trying to sing it, but also try to revise the words of the blessing for our souls. Maybe you can also revise, check on your soul as well. Elohim, neshama shenatata vi. Elohim, Elohim, neshama shenatata vi, Tehoraim, ata barata yatzarta, ata nefachta vi. ואתה משמרה בקרבי, ואתה עתיד לתלה ממני ולהחזירה בי לעתיד לבוא. כל זמן שנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך. כל זמן שנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך. Adonai, Elohai, Elohei Avotai, Rivon kol hamasim, Adon kol haneshamot, Rivon kol hamasim, Adon kol haneshamot. נשמה שנתת בי, אלוהי, אלוהי, נשמה שנתת בי, אלוהי, אלוהי, נשמה שנתת Praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. We turn our Sidurim to page 198 for the blessings for the daily miracles. Birkot HaShachar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the water.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, mahalish arumim. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, הנותן ליעב כוח. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המביא שינה מעיני ודמעה מיפם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשה לי בצלם אלוהים. As created all human beings equal. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשה לי בן חורים. free will. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech העולם, שעשה לי ישראל. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוזר ישראל בגבורה. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוזר ישראל בתפארה. אמן. We turn our Siurim to page 212 for the blessing for the Psuke de Simbra as we undertake the challenging work of uplifting our souls.
Baruch Shabbat, V'haya Olam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shema, Baruch Hoseh V'Reshit, Baruch Omer V'Hoseh, Baruch Gozer U'Mekayem, Baruch Merachem על הארץ, ברוך מרחם על הבריאות, ברוך משלם, זכר טוב לרעב, ברוך חי לעד וקיים לנצח, ברוך בדרך ומציל, ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו.
Songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, for you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe, praise and glorious ruler, your name is eternal. Baruch atah Adonai melech meulal ותשבחות. מלך מהולל ותשבחות. מלך מהולל ותשבחות. ברוך הוא ברוך שמו. page 214. We start the Psukei de Simbra in Shabbat with Psalm 92. We grant Shabbat and ourselves this beautiful song, Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך באמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בשיבה, ישנים ברעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא הבלטה בו.
Page 215. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלע. Happy are those who dwell in your house, and they find words of praise, even in difficult moments. Happy are those that succeed to find within themselves, within their hearts, words of encouragement, words of praise, words of connection. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלע. We continue with the reading of Ashrei on page 215. תהילת ללווית, הרוממך אלוהי המלך, בעברך שמך לעולם ועד.
בכל יום אברכך, ועללה שמך לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, בגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
הדר כבוד הודיך, ודברי נפלאותיך השיחה.
עזוז נורותיך יאמרו, גדולתך ספרנה.
זכר רב טובך יביאו, בצדקתך ירננו. נאמר אדוני.
רחמים ומגדל חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל, ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, בגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורתה, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, ומשולתך בכל דור ודור.
צומח אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הפתוחים.
עיני כל אליך ישברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו. פותח את ידיך ומצביע לכל חי רצון. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יבואו מהם.
רצון עיריו יעשה, בין שבתה משמע ויושיע.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, את כל הרשעים ישמיד.
תהילת אדוני ידבר בי ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם לעולם ועד.
אנחנו נברך יה מעתה הללויה. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם לעולם ועד. אנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה page 218. כל הנשמה להלליה, הללו, הללויה.
כל הנשמה בהללויה,
הללו, 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 נשמעת כל חי, תתברך את שמך, אדוני אלוהינו. ברוח כל בשר, תפאר ותתרומם זכרך מלכנו תמיד. We have no sovereign besides you, God of the first and the last, God of all creatures, Master of all generations, who is praised in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps. God awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute, and God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the fallen and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge. We're on page 220. Every heart will revere you, and every inmost though will sing to your name. And David said, let all my bones exclaim, who is like you, Adonai? As David continued, bless Adonai, O my soul, and let my inner being praise your holy name. We turn our liturgy to page 222.
שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני, לישרים נבוא תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. ובמקלות ריבות עמך בית ישראל, בעיני יתפאר שמך מלכנו, בכל דור ודור. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, שושבחה לב וזמרה, עוז ממשלה נצח גדולה גבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות ורעות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו,
אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלכי העולמים.
Amen. Page 224. יתגדל והתקדש שברבה, ועלמה דברה חילותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יש מלך מבורך לעולם ולעול בעלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח, מתפאר מתרומם מתנשא, בהתהדר בהתהלל בהתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו להלה מן כל ברכתה בשירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, לעמידם בעלמה באמרו amen. And on page 226, please rise for the call to worship for Baruch, as we claim for our ability to join with each other in prayer.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. You may be seated. Shalom, ובורא את הכל, יא לה 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 ay, 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 Shabbos, ay, 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 ay. You can say Shabbat Shalom in the comments on YouTube and on Facebook as we say that we are together and we are getting close to the Shema. We take a moment to recognize the light coming from those that are surrounding us. Ay, 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 Shabbos, ay, 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 Shabbos, ay, 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 Shabbos, ay, 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 ay. In mercy, you illuminate the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness, you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom, you formed them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. We are on page 230.
Ahavarabaftanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla gedola v'tera, chamata aleinu, ba'avur avoteinu, ve'imotenu, Shabbat chovecha, Avinu Malkeinu, Vatlamdim Chukei Chayim, Ken Techonenu Tamdeinu, Amerachem, Rachem Aleinu, V'tein b'libeinu lehavinu laskil lishma,
Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, abocher be'amo Israel be'ahava. I invite you now to gather the four corners of your talit as we cover our eyes, as we turn our pages to 232 and cover our eyes for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We continue on page 234 or 34 with Ve'ahavta. Please join me. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוך בך ובקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובישעריך. We continue in English in the middle of page 236. Adonai said to Moses as follows: Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אמת ויציב ואהוב וחביב, בנורא ואדיר בטוב ביפה, הדבר עשה עלינו לעולם ועד. We continue with the silent reading over page 238. And if you are not holding a siddur, I invite you to think about what redemption looks like for you. What's holding you back? And what are the chains that you need to leave behind in this morning of Shabbat? With great joy, Moshe, Miriam, and Israel responded with song to you. Who is like you, O God? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. We are on page 240. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot oseh pele. Nora tehilot oseh pele. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפתיים. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפתיים. יחד כולם הודו במליכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם בעת. צור ישראל ומלך ישראל ובני נומך יהודה וישראל. בוא עלינו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל. די 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 We turn our Siddurim to page 242. As we go into Tfilat Amidah, we will sing out loud the first, and we will pray out loud the first three blessings of Tfilat Amidah, and then each of us will continue with his or her Siddur, or with his or her Tfilah Shevalev, with the prayer of your heart. We do understand that Tfilat Amidah is for many of us challenging while praying apart, while being each of us in different rooms, it's very difficult not to get distracted. But that's actually the challenge that we are dealing with in our life. It feels that we are in an absolute distraction. So let's take this moment as a gift. Let's take a moment as a gift of prayer. Let's take this moment to try to find the words that we need to say, the words that our soul needs to hear. Let's hope that we can open our lips and say words of praise. Page 242.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסיר ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומשיח מגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, תומך נופים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לישני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, נאמנת לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, בחיי הכל.
ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא יבוש לעולם בהר. Baruch atah Adonai Hael HaKadosh. יזבחו מלכותך שומרי שבת וכל יכולת Continue with the reading of the Amidah in silence or with this moment of personal meditation. We're on page 258. Bless us, our Creator, all of us together through the light of your presence. We also pray to find God's presence and God's light through each other's presence. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And again, we don't know exactly when you are joining us, at what point of our service you are joining us. But we encourage you when you come in to say Good Shabbos, and as we acknowledge each other's presence. Can you give me the mouse? I will need to change the kind of sound that the congregation is receiving. Now you will hear my voice differently. And you know, one of the things I just noticed that, and I'll say that because I wrote it in the comments, when we say something that is slightly wrong in tefillah, it's common that to make a mistake or not to notice that you change between seasons. So we just say it. So I wrote that on Facebook. So we are already in Morid Atal for those that are going to be praying today, and but it's kind of funny during this time because like time is so different, right? Like so did anything change? Like it wasn't March last week, so and we already started a new Gregorian month. So we will now focus ourselves on Parashat Ashavua in our Torah portion. I will share my screen. This one. We'll talk a little bit about it. Yeah, don't worry, we are not going to read all these 9 pages. We just have them for just in case. So I want to focus, even though our Sedra today is Acharei Mot Kedoshim, I want to focus on Kedoshim. I want to explore what's this code of Kedusha, of holiness, of sacredness. Before we do that, I'd like to do the blessing for the study of Torah. I hope you can join me, and otherwise you can repeat after me. Baruch Ata Adonai
אדוני,
Eloheinu melech haolam
אלוהינו מלך העולם,
asher kitshanu
אשר קידשנו
b'mitzvotav
במצוותיו,
v'tzivanu
וציוונו
la'asok b'divrei Torah.
לעסוק בדברי תורה.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our sovereign, ruler of the universe, who has consecrated, hallowed us with your mitzvot and commanded us to be busy, to work in the study of Torah. La'asok is actually an interesting word to translate. So let's get started. We are going to. Does it help to those that are? I hope this is helpful for those that are trying. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל כל עדת בני ישראל, ואמרת אליהם, קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני אדוני אלוהיכם. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to the whole Israelite community and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord, your God, am holy. קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני. קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני. So, if we read literally, well, you are supposed to be holy because God is holy. But what's the meaning of that holiness? I think that the Seder tries to explain that to us, but in order to understand it well, we will need to go way back in the Torah. You shall each revere his mother and his father and keep my Shabbat. I, the Lord, am your God. So why the first thing in the context of holiness is Shabbat? What do you think is that happening? And if you're on Facebook, you can write some answers and I might be able to see them. Why is Shabbat the first thing that appears in the context of how to be holy, right? Respect your parents, honor your parents, and Shabbat. And I want to focus on Shabbat. Why is that? Well, we say that every Friday night. And as a matter of fact, it's right at the beginning of the Torah. The first sacred thing that God creates is Shabbat, is time. By Kadesh Oto, he created the Sabbath and he made it sacred. So the first conception of sacredness is actually sometimes something that is completely abstract. And there's a huge message on the idea of understanding that holiness doesn't start in objects, but rather in abstract things. So now, what can be abstract things? Time is one of them. Thank you, Noga. Well, maybe values. maybe emotions. Maybe our values and our emotions are holy. We, we will later learn that there are holy objects, but they are later stages. And then God says, do not turn to idols or make molten gods for yourself. I, the Lord, am your God. So don't make any idol. Like, again, don't try to connect with objects if you want to connect with me. So this idea of imitating the divine presence or the holiness of God doesn't go through any kind of object, and forget the idols, which is a reminder that keeps appearing in the Torah. And now, when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Why is that?
To give to the poor.
To give to the poor, and to give to the almanah, to the widow, and to the yatom, to give to those that are the weakest in our society. So if you want to start understanding what's holy in terms of how we connect with the holiness of God, directly connect with the holiness of God, God says, well, you first need to understand we are talking about something that's completely abstract, and then we are talking about your ability to recognize the ultimate other. That's the first thing. And to be generous. But we are not talking about generosity. We are talking in Jewish language about tzedakah. Now, tzedakah is not solidarity. It's not charity. Tzedakah means righteous giving. And it comes from the word justice. It's your obligation. It's our obligation. It's what is the right thing to do. You shall not steal. You shall not deal deceitfully or falsely with one another. Again, relationships. You shall not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am the Lord. So don't lie to other people. Don't cheat. Be honest. You shall not defraud your fellow. You shall not commit robbery. The wages of your, and this is a very important concept. The wages of your laborer shall not remain with you until morning, which basically means if someone is working for you, you don't tell him or her, I pay you tomorrow. You have the obligation to pay immediately. You cannot go back home to the comfort of your family, leaving someone without his parnasah, the money or the salary that this person needs to get in order to be able to sustain his own life. You have an obligation, and you need to be bothered if you are holding money or a salary that doesn't belong to you. You need to immediately give it to that person. לא תקלל חירש, בלפני עיוור לא תיתן מכשול. You shall not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am the Lord. Now, this is a very interesting idea. You shall not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind. Well, literally, we understand why it's something terrible to do, right? Like if you see someone with a stick walking the street, so you get that. But the question is, what happens when we are talking about someone who is blinded by a situation, or who is unable to comprehend something? And it might be, going back to our conversation yesterday, it might be annoying us. Then the mitzvah is applicable as well. And the same thing with those that cannot hear, that cannot listen to us, that don't have the ability to hear. So we are talking about two levels. But then God says, remember that you are supposed to fear God. And the word fear is ira. You are supposed to see God also in these people. It's not, in my opinion, fear of being scared of, fear of recognition. You are supposed to recognize God also in these people that are dealing with challenges, whatever these challenges might be. And you are supposed to remember that also God's presence is within you. We'll talk about that in a second. You shall not render an unfair decision. Do not favor the poor or show deference to the rich. Judge your kinsman fairly. בצדק תשפוט עמיתך. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Tzedek, justice, is a very, very, very important value. And it's the value that we try to pursue, right? Tzedek, tzedek, tirdov. Tzedek, justice, justice, you shall pursue. But this piece will end with a different concept. And we'll get there just in a second. Do not deal basely with your countrymen. Do not profit by the blood of your fellow. I am the Lord. You shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. Reprove your kinsman, but incur no guilt because of him. So we have the obligation to reprove someone. And why we need to do that? Because sometimes it's important to help that person to improve. To reprove is important in order to help someone to improve. But what we are trying also to save is our own souls. So this entire code is about our ability to keep our souls away from corruption. לא תקום ולא תיטור את בני עמך ואהבת לרעך כמוך אני אדוני. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your countrymen. Again, the contamination of our own souls. And the last value is love your fellow as yourself. So here we are. We are supposed to be holy because God is holy. That's the first commandment, the first mitzvah of this Torah portion. And then we are given two values, justice and love, that are extremely different. Extremely, extremely different. Why? Because for justice, we have laws, right? And justice is impartial. Justice should be, as the Torah just stated, the same for everyone. But love, the aspiration of loving everyone exactly the same way is quite complicated. And we love our partners, we love our children. Le reacha is toward your fellow. Defer toward your fellow with as much love as you would like to be deferred yourself. We have these two ideas that are in constant tension. And I'll make a shortcut to the bottom line of this Torah portion. The idea of holiness, קדושים תהיו כי קדוש אני, you shall be holy because I am holy, is a direct link to the idea that men and women, we were created in God's image. God's image is not a physicality. The idea of God's image is the notion that we all have a soul. And we need to protect that soul. And the first thing that we need to do in order to protect that soul is to keep ourselves away from corruption, from corrupting our own soul. And how do we do that? By remembering that our fellows, they also have souls. and that we want to act toward them with justice, and we want to challenge ourselves, not just to act with justice. We want to challenge ourselves to act also with love, with loving kindness. In this Torah portion, we try to create that gathering that the psalmist does so well, between justice and loving kindness, between tzedek be'ahava. And talking about the psalmist, I want to share one more word. Where is it? Here. We pray, Lev ta'or brali Elohim, beruach nachon chadesh bekirbi, fashion a pure heart for me. And when we say heart in the biblical language, we are talking about our brains, our minds. Help me have the ability to distinguish and create in me a steadfast spirit. Al tashlicheni melefanecha. Don't cast me away of your presence or take your Holy Spirit away from me. Beruach kodshecha, kdoshim tiyu. Beruach kodshecha, your Holy Spirit. Al tikach mimeni. Don't take it away from me. So the way to keep God's Spirit between us, within us, is by trying to exercise our ability to act with righteousness toward others, and even while being challenged, to act toward others with the same love that we would like to have others, for others to have when they act toward us. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll take one moment now to acknowledge people that are dealing with illness. We think about first responders, we think about essential workers, we think about people working groceries, we think about people taking care of the ill. We think about all those that with their work are supporting our society and at the same time risking their health. We think about members of our community that are dealing with illness. We think about people dealing with illness in their bodies, in their hearts, in their souls. We think about people dealing with addictions. As community, we lift up our prayer. Misheberach, we're on page 371.
Abracha,
wish to all of them refuah shlema ve'achlama meira, a complete and a fast recovery. And let us say, Amen. We now take a moment to acknowledge mourners among our community. If you have names that you like to share, we acknowledge people in the cycle of the first week of mourning, Shiva. We acknowledge people during the first month of mourning, Shloshim, during the first year, the cycle of the first year. We acknowledge people that are having a yortzeit this week, an anniversary of death. Now you can support our fellows while standing or sitting, joining us with your voices and your hearts for Mourners Kaddish on page 598. התגדל והתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמה דברה חירותי בימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמעל מיה. יתברך, בישתבח, ביתפאר, ביתמם, ביתנשא, ביתהדר, ביתעלה, ביתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושילתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. May the memories of your dear ones be a living blessing in your life. Yes, Zichram Baruch. A few announcements. We just sent an email with all the events for the month of May. Hebrew May, English May. Yeah. So for the month of May, and we want you to open your calendar and to bring and put all those events in your calendar. We want to make sure that you are participating with us, that you are enjoying all these events with us. Lots of good things to look for, so we would love to have you, to see you, to sense your presence. We will now conclude our service on page 625 with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Hashem Melach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, le'edasav v'chevso kol atzai melech, shemo nikra, ve'acharei tivot hakol, levado yimloch nara, v'hu haya v'hu hove, v'hu yeh b'tivara, v'hu echad ve'en sheni, laham shelo le'achbira, v'li reshit v'li tachrit, v'lo ha'os ve'ham Yisrael.
Spirit, my body also. Adonai is with me, and I shall not fear. Adonai os le'amoiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. May God give us the strength and the courage to create peace, to see each other's soul, and to act with righteousness toward each other. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Yada, yada. Chavez.